Not sure the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
Why did this Obama administration purposely allow the illegal transfer of more than 2,000 weapons that they knew, according to this memo, were going to go to Mexico?
The guns that we saw these individuals buy would begin turning up at crime scenes in the United States and in Mexico.
Who authorized this program that was so felony stupid that it got people killed?
It was relayed to me that they didn't have to explain anything to me. I was to do as I was told.
Are they lying or are you lying?
Sir, this investigation is my opinion that we did not let guns walk.
You're entitled to your opinion, not to your facts.
What we have here is actually a colossal failure in leadership from within ATF, within the United States Attorney's Office, and within DOJ.
This is one of the most shameful moments, I think, in our government's history.
This is one of the saddest days in my 6 months in Congress.
This is the Mo Curley and Larry show, and we're looking for Larry.
We will not rest until every single person responsible for all of this, no matter where they are,
Yeah, right.
are brought to justice.
They're gonna be business as usual.
And welcome to this special edition of Hannity. Tonight, we investigate Operation Fast and Furious, the highly controversial program initiated by the Justice Department's Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Now, the operation grew out of the ATF Southwest Border Initiative. It was called Project Gunrunner. Now, when the project first began back under the Bush administration in 2006, its purpose was to, quote, reduce firearms and explosives related to violent crime associated with Mexican criminal organizations operating in the U.S. and Mexico by preventing these organizations from unlawfully acquiring and trafficking firearms and explosives, unquote. But the program that began with the best of intentions expanded dramatically after President Obama took office, and it veered sharply off course, eventually empowering the very activity that it initially set out to suppress.
Classic.
In 2009, Congress gave the ATF $21.9 million in part to support and expand the program called Project Gunrunner. One of the offshoots of the project was Operation Fast and Furious, which was run out of the ATF's Phoenix, Arizona Field Division. It incorporated a new gun-walking strategy, which allowed suspects to literally walk away with illegally purchased guns in the hope that the straw purchasers would lead law enforcement to bigger fish in the gun trafficking networks.
It was then that this thing turned ugly. What we have was a toxic and deadly combination of incompetence, bureaucratic malfeasance, and an anti-gun agenda. This sense that they needed to do everything in their power to smear gun dealers and blame them for the problem.
Of course.
90% of the guns recovered in Mexico come from the United States, many from gun shops that line our shared border.
What's most ironic, of course, is that it's the gun dealers themselves who were warning these top officials that things had gone wrong.
It's becoming obvious that the largest supplier to the Mexican gun violence is the BATFE. It's not the dealers. They're using the dealers as the scapegoat.
Under Operation Fast and Furious, the ATF allowed the sale of 2,020 firearms to suspected smugglers. While 1,430 of those firearms are still on the streets and unaccounted for, 590 have been linked to criminal activity, including the December 2010 murder of border agent Brian Terry, who was killed near Rio Rico, Arizona by suspected operatives of a Mexican drug smuggling organization. Internal ATF emails later confirmed that 2 of the weapons found at the scene had been purchased earlier that year as part of the Fast and Furious program.
They're dead Americans as a result of this failed and reckless program.
I'm going to take great exception to what you just said. The notion that somehow or other this Justice Department is responsible for those deaths that you mentioned, that assertion is offensive.
January 2011, Iowa Senator Charles Grassley, the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, sent a letter to the acting ATF director, Kenneth Melson, writing, quote, members of the Judiciary Committee have received numerous allegations that the ATF sanctioned the sale of hundreds of assault weapons to suspected straw purchasers who then allegedly transported these weapons throughout the southwestern border area and into Mexico. Assistant Attorney General Ronald Weich responded by calling Grassley's allegation flat out false. Then in February, another innocent American loses his life. 32-year-old ICE agent Jamie Zapata was gunned down on a Mexican highway by members of a dangerous drug cartel. ATF officials traced one of the weapons used to assail in Texas that likely took place under the operation, although officials will not confirm it. Later, President Obama was publicly asked about the operation for the very first time by Spanish TV network Univision.
There may be a situation here in which a serious mistake was made. If that's the case, then we'll find out and we'll hold somebody accountable.
On May 3rd, Attorney General Eric Holder testified before the House Judiciary Committee.
When did you first know about the program?
I'm not sure the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
Rewind to a 2009 arms trafficking conference in Mexico, where Holder delivered a speech not only acknowledging Project Gunrunner, but bragging about its expansion, saying, quote, "My department is committing 100 new ATF personnel to the southwest border in the next 100 days to supplement our ongoing Project Gunrunner."
It's ironic, of course, that when the dam first broke, Eric Holder promised to get to the bottom of the problem. We know now that Eric Holder has been the source of the problem all along.
June 13th, the first hearing on Operation Fast and Furious was held by the House Oversight Committee. At the hearings, committee chairman, California Congressman Darrell Issa, grilled Assistant AG Weish.
You made a statement in that letter that you signed on the 4th that said, ATF makes every effort to interdict weapons that have been purchased illegally and prevent their transportation to Mexico. Isn't that statement false now with what you know?
Obviously, there have been allegations that call into serious question that particular...
Weren't there documents that now have been provided and made public that let you know that that statement was false?
And that's why you're investigating, and that's why we're investigating.
Also testifying at the hearing were 3 current ATF agents who were involved with Fast and Furious.
Prior to my coming to Phoenix, I had never been involved in or even heard of an operation in which law enforcement officers let guns walk. The very idea of doing so is unthinkable to most law enforcement. I and other field agents involved in this operation repeatedly raised these concerns with our supervisors. In response, we were told that we simply did not understand the plan.
3 weeks later, on July the 4th, facing mounting scrutiny over the botched operation and calls for his resignation, Melson appeared secretly before congressional investigators from the House Oversight Committee and the Senate Judiciary Committee, where Melson testified that mistakes were made by the ATF and that officials withheld information to protect political appointees at the top of the department. In a joint letter written immediately following the meetings, Issa and Grassley argued that, quote, "If his account is accurate, then ATF leadership appears to have been effectively muzzled while the DOJ sent over false denials and buried its head in the sand."
The more we're finding out, the more the American people will understand that this administration is endangering not just the people on the front lines who are protecting us, but civilians as well.